Today, we'll be ranking 10 ways to make money. Cha-ching! Before we begin, let me explain how this is going to work. I'll be ranking these 10 ways to make money based on earning potential, your return on time invested, the lifestyle that is associated with these jobs or ways to make money, and finally, of course, my own personal experience with these methods. This tier list goes from D all the way up to S, and I'll explain it now. D is something that you want to avoid at all costs. In my opinion, it is something that is not worth your money because it just takes too much time and it pays too little. Over here on C tier, it barely passes as a potential primary income source. So a primary income source is however much you need to live a basic life in wherever you are. So I'm in Kuala Lumpur, and that primary income source is about 2,500 to 3,000 ringgit a month. Over here on the B tier, we're getting into solid territory. A is going to be very good and S is going to be superb. I'll go through all these 10 ways to make money. I'll go through the pros, the cons, the earning potential, and who it is suitable for. Now, just because I rate something very low doesn't mean you should stop doing it. And just because I rate something very high doesn't mean you should do it. At the end of the day, personal suitability and what works for you is also very important. I also need to say that some people may be very happy with just a C tier source of income, while other people might have an S tier income but still not be very happy with it. So it all depends on you. So if I rate something that you're doing in the lower tiers, don't take it personally. This is just my opinion. So with that out of the way, let's go to our first candidate, which is the 9-to-5 job. I want to start with the 9-to-5 job because I think it's a good baseline since most people have experience with this. So the 9-to-5 job, I'm going to put it in the B tier, right? And let me explain why. So with the 9-to-5 job, the pros are you have some form of stability, you have security in terms of EPF, you have your insurance, and you have your monthly salary coming in every month. Also with a 9-to-5 job, it is the most socially acceptable out of most of these things. So it is much easier to explain to your uncle that you work at XYZ bank compared to trying to explain that you flip PNGs of monkeys on the internet for a living. With a 9-to-5 job, you also have possible career and skill progression depending on what job you take and your career path. So for example, if you're working in the professional field, if you're a doctor, a 9-to-5 job is almost mandatory. You have to go through that process. Another pro of the 9-to-5 job is that you have possible network expansion, right? So a lot of people meet friends from the 9-to-5 job. A lot of people meet their potential spouses from the 9-to-5 job. And a lot of people also meet potential mentors and people who will guide them through their skill and career progression in the future. And I think that is something that is very valuable. So the cons of a 9-to-5 job is that your income is, most of the time, is decided by your boss, and it's very hard to increase your income or have a jump in income very drastically in a short amount of time, other than the fact that you change jobs, and you can't change jobs that often. So your income is kind of restricted in that sense. Now, the con of the 9-to-5 job is that it puts you in this comfortable position, comfortable enough so that you don't pursue your full dreams, in that it gives you a comfortable salary. You know, you feel okay. It's not great. Things are not great, but things are okay. And so you are less likely to, let's say, put yourself outside of your comfort zone and try something new, take risks, and let's say fulfill your full potential. And finally, the last con of a 9-to-5 job is that most of the time formal education is required, and you kind of need to have some form of acceptable social skills to communicate with your colleagues. Some of these jobs here, or some of these income sources here, you don't really need to have social skills at all, which we'll talk about later. So the earnings from a 9-to-5 job, you can earn anywhere from 1.5K a month all the way up to 60K a month if you're a C-suite. And really the earning potential is not quite there. It is not great, but it is a good base for anyone starting out. And it is suitable. I would say a 9-to-5 job is suitable for most people, and that is what most people do. Okay, so that's our first one, the 9-to-5 job. Now let's move on to the next one, which is being a delivery driver, either through Grab, Lalamove, Foodpanda, whatever it is, delivering food, delivering people to other places, all that stuff. So I'm going to put this in the C tier right here. I think it has primary income potential, but I don't think it is as good or solid as a 9-to-5 job to be put in the B tier. And let me explain why. So the pros of being a delivery driver, it is that it is very easy to start. You do not need any specific education besides being able to drive decently. And really all you need is a vehicle and time to start making money. For car drivers, if you're transporting human beings, then there are more regulations. Your car has to be at a certain level, but if you're delivering goods, then that is not a factor. Another big pro with being a delivery driver is that you can work anytime you want and you can earn as much as you want, right? Your working hours is determined by you, and I think that is very valuable. So now to the cons of being a delivery driver is that the margins are very thin, especially if you don't have your own vehicle and you need to rent one, or if you're still paying your installment payments on your existing vehicle. Plus, you have to factor in the depreciation costs of your vehicle and also the maintenance cost. Now, this con can be made less severe, and you can increase your margins if you decide to sell advertising on your car. So for example, you see those Grab cars where they advertise, where they put stickers like Pepsi or whatever it is, or in their cars they put some advertising material. They can earn more money from that, or they can increase their margins from that and potentially earn more. Another con of being a delivery driver is that it can be quite dependent on the location you're in. You might earn significantly less if you're in a non-busy area, but if you're in a very metropolitan area like Kuala Lumpur, then maybe you can earn more. Another con for being a delivery driver is that it is long hours. You are working most of the time to make it worth it, to make your margins worth it. And also the final con is that you have no skill progression. Basically, every day you're just learning how to drive better, unless you're in the car listening to audiobooks and learning new skills. But most of the time you'll just be increasing your skill of driving. So there is not much skill progression here. So in terms of earnings for being a Grab driver, let's say for driving people, on Glassdoor it says it's about 20 ringgit an hour. And from Quora and other forums that I've read from personal experience with Grab drivers, they say they earn about 2,000 to 4,000 ringgit a month. But this is in gross earnings. This is before they have to pay all of their expenses. So the margins are not there. I guess if you sell advertising, like I said earlier, then your margins could be better. But I think it's okay. I think if you pair a 9-to-5 job with a delivery driver job, I think that could be quite good. But I don't think Grab is up there in the B tier. I think it's up here in the C tier as a supplementary. It could be a primary income potential if you do it a lot, if you know what you're doing. And yeah, it's in the C tier. Who is this suitable for? I think it's suitable for people who are just getting started. They don't have much skills. They already have a car. They already have a vehicle maybe. And it's also suitable for people who already have a 9-to-5 job and they are already commuting, and maybe on their way back or on their way to work, they can do a few runs, they can do a few deliveries or a few drives and earn some extra income there. Sorry if the words are a bit small here, but whatever. So now we're moving on to the next one, which is this brownie symbol, which is homemade goods. So this is when you sell homemade goods, like you bake stuff, you cook stuff, or you make certain jewelry or artifact and you sell it to other people. And I'm going to put this in the C tier as well, and let me explain why. So the pros to this is, of course, you get to do something that you enjoy doing, right? So you wouldn't bake and sell stuff unless you really like baking and selling stuff. You wouldn't make jewelry and sell it unless you are good at it and you enjoy it in some way. So the good thing about it is that you're doing something you enjoy. You can also do it exclusively from home because it's homemade goods, so you don't really have to go out to work. You also get to develop your skills in your entrepreneurship because you are basically running a little mini store of your own. And the final pro to selling homemade goods is that you have a very low startup cost, but you have a high earning potential, mainly because the margins can be very high in certain industries. So let's say, for example, for food, the margins are not very high. But for example, like jewelry, beads, handmade bracelets, necklaces, the margins for those are quite high and you can earn a decent amount of money. So I'm contemplating whether to put it in B tier or C tier. The primary reason why I put it in C tier and not B is because of the con. This major big con with homemade goods is that it is very hard to scale. So because you're selling physical items and you are making them yourself, it's very hard to scale and sell it to a larger audience and really get more revenue in. So for example, if you're baking brownies, it's very hard to sell, let's say, 500 brownies in a day because the oven has to be on all day. You have to be baking. You probably have to hire some people to make it for you, to make it along with you. And it's just the larger you expand, the less and less it becomes a homemade product. But for example, if you're selling beads or homemade bracelets, same thing. You can only make so many in a day. You can only sell so many in a day. And chances are you are selling to the people within your vicinity. You're not selling to people that are living very far away, and that limits your audience size. So you can only sell to so many people. And it is quite hard to scale in this sense. So how much can you earn from selling homemade goods? I'd say you can earn anywhere from 1.5 to 10K a month, which is quite decent. But after the 10K a month mark, it's quite hard to scale after that, because of what I said earlier. Okay, so now let's go into the next one, which is day trading. All right, so day trading can be trading anything from stocks, commodities, crypto, NFTs, all of those things. So for day trading, I'm gonna put it in the B tier. And I know some of you day traders are gonna hate me for this, but let me explain why. So the pros of day trading is that you can really do it anywhere. You can do it from home. You can do it anytime. If you're in the Forex market, you know, the market is open more than the stock market. Another pro is that you really don't need much capital to start, right? You can trade with very little. And if you want to see this in action, check out this guy who traded his way from a paperclip all the way to a house. That's quite interesting. Another big advantage of trading is that you can use other people's money. You can use leverage. You can borrow money. If you don't have money, you can trade on borrowed money and make more money. And I would say it has decent earnings, which we'll talk about more in a bit. So the cons to day trading is that there's a very high skill level required for this. Most day traders are unprofitable, or either they make a very negligible amount that is not even in the primary income potential. Another con for day trading is that you need a very specific personality and skill set to be able to day trade every day. You have to be very analytical. You have to really like numbers and looking at charts. And another con to day trading is that there's a high tendency or high risk to losing your money and going into debt because of the pro that I mentioned earlier, which is to leverage, to borrow money to trade. You can go both ways. If you don't make money, you can lose money and go into debt. And there is also a gambling tendency when you go into trading. How much can you earn as a day trader? If you're good, you can make anywhere between 80 to 150K a year, which is okay. It's not great for the amount of work you put in and for the amount of skill you need to acquire. So who is it suitable for? It's suitable for people who actually like looking at charts and looking at numbers, and for people who are very analytical. So next up on the list, we have online surveys, and I'm going to put this in D tier right over here. You want to avoid them because in my opinion, they cost more time than it is worth it. The only pros of online surveys is that you do not need any skills to do it. All you need is your own personal experience, and it's very easily accessible. So if you have internet, then you can do it. The cons to this is that the earnings are quite pathetic, which I'll talk about later. There is a risk of being scammed and a risk of your information being used in ways that you do not want it to be used. And the biggest con is that it's just not worth the time you invest in because of the low earnings. So typically you would earn about 2 ringgit an hour for really good surveys. And I've seen like some people earning 80 cents an hour for the general average survey. So this is why I don't think it's worth the time. The earning potential is just very low. On the other side, you could join certain focus groups that are more specific to your experience. So for example, high-end cars, luxury cars, stuff like that. Those could possibly give you more money for your input, but I don't have much experience with that. If you do, just let me know down in the comments below. Okay, now we have our first heavy hitter, which is e-commerce. And when I say e-commerce, it's a general statement including Shopify, your own Shopify store, selling on Shopee or Lazada and stuff like that. So I'm going to put this in A tier, right? I'm going to put this in A tier and I'll explain why. E-commerce is basically a scaled up version of selling homemade goods, but it's not homemade because you probably source it from somewhere else. Okay, so the pros to e-commerce is that you have a very high earning potential. You are almost like a full-blown company. So there are tons of new e-commerce stores these days in the US, in other countries, and also in Malaysia. You can check them out. But you basically have different ways to sell these products. You can either create your own product, you can do R&D, or you can source products from places like China and just resell them. So for e-commerce, you can kind of work from anywhere you want and at any time you want, but not as much as the others that I'll talk about later. And because for e-commerce, it kind of depends on your stakeholders. For example, if you're sourcing products from China, you have to talk to your Chinese suppliers. If you are doing R&D, if you are creating your own product, you have to go out and talk to your suppliers and your manufacturers. And the last pro to an e-commerce store is that it is much easier and much lower cost to start up compared to a traditional physical store, which is why it has been so popular. Now, for the cons of owning an e-commerce store or selling stuff online is that you really need lots of skills in different areas, or you need to hire people who have skills in these different areas. So for example, you need to do the marketing for your product, you need to do the sales, you need to do the sourcing, you need to do the logistics, you need to handle the logistics. Even if you're drop shipping, you have to have some partner or you have to have some system set up to handle these logistics. If you're creating your own product, you have to be skilled in product creation and really knowing what the market wants, what it wants to buy. And you also have to be good at analytics, analyzing your sales, how often customers would buy, what they would buy, how much an average customer is worth to you, and all those things. So you really have to have a broad range of skills. You don't have to be the best at them, but you have to at least have some general knowledge in the skills to at least hire someone or do it yourself. Another con for an e-commerce store is that it has a high startup cost compared to other online options, like for example, YouTube or Instagram, which we'll talk about later. So for e-commerce, you have a high startup cost to start out because you have to pay for the hosting fee, whether you're using Shopify or whatever it is. If you're using Shopee Lazada, that hosting fee is translated into the commissions that you have to pay them for every sale you make. You also have to pay for advertising costs, which can be a significant percentage of the overall expenses of your business. And if you're hiring someone like, let's say, for example, a virtual assistant to help you with the orders and managing stuff, then you have to pay for that too. And the final con of an e-commerce store, which is kind of a big con, is that the margins are quite thin for physical products. So a physical product will always have thinner margins than a digital product. The cost of manufacturing, the cost of delivery, all of that is factored in, which eventually makes your margins very thin. So if you see an e-commerce store making lots in revenue, that revenue has to be deducted by the expenses that I mentioned earlier, advertising costs being a huge one, and you might end up with a small amount of profit for a lot of work. But if you get this right, and if you have the right product and you have the right systems, then you can just keep this going on like a machine and you can potentially make decent money, which is why I put it in the A tier. So how much can you make from e-commerce store? You could possibly make anywhere from 100 to 300,000 a month in revenue. So that's quite good, but in profit, it really depends on how well and how efficient your business is. So who is e-commerce suitable for? I think it's suitable for people who actually like selling physical products. Also for people who really want to own their own store, selling their own goods. It's also suitable for people who have skills in multiple areas, like I talked before, advertising, sales, logistics, management, and all those things. And for people who have a good amount of starting capital to start out with, because with e-commerce, the barrier to entry is quite a bit higher compared to other options, other online options that I will talk about next. So the next candidate we have is blogging. And blogging, I'm going to put in the A tier as well. So let me explain. The good thing about blogging is that you can make a decent income by just being a good writer. So compared to other online platforms like YouTube or Instagram, in blogging, you don't really have to show your face. You don't have to video edit. You don't have to photo edit. All you need is to write. And writing is one of the simplest methods, especially in online delivery, because you don't have to worry about visuals and stuff like that. All you need to worry about is words. Maybe you have to be a bit savvy in web design, or you can hire a web designer to design your blog. But other than that, all you need are good writing skills and an understanding of who you're writing for. So the big advantage of blogging compared to other stuff like, let's say, Instagram or YouTube, is that on blogging, you kind of own the content yourself. So whatever that's on your blog is yours and you have full access to it. No one's going to shut it down unless you don't pay for your hosting fees. But compare that to Instagram or YouTube. If you put up content on Instagram or YouTube, Instagram can censor it, YouTube can censor it, they can put it down, they can close your account, all those stuff. But for blogging, you own the content and you kind of have this direct relationship to the people that you are interacting with. So that's a big pro to blogging compared to other platforms like social. But the reason why it is not in the S tier for me is because blogging right now, it is kind of left behind. Most people prefer visuals these days. They prefer video, they prefer pictures, short form video. Blogging has kind of fell back to the side. Yes, it has its place for people who still love to read, and there are certain areas or niches that do rely on blogging more than visuals, but more and more this is becoming rare because visuals are just more stimulating. You are listening, looking, and reading at the same time, whereas blogging, yeah, you can add pictures or videos in your blog, but most of the time it is just words. Another con for blogging as well is that it is kind of harder to gain traction compared to when you post content out on other social media platforms like Instagram or YouTube, because you have to do your own marketing and you have to be somewhat savvy in search engine optimization, or SEO, which is basically ranking your blog or your article on the first page of Google, because that's where you get most of the traffic. And so the final con to blogging is that there is a certain skill level that you should not neglect, right? You have to be a really good writer. And on top of that, you have to be really good at SEO as well if you want your blog to be discovered. You might also have to be good at web design if you don't want to hire a web designer, and you have to make your blog pleasant to read. So you can earn anywhere between 5 to 30K a month blogging. It really depends on the sources of income you extract from your blog, which is very similar to Instagram and YouTube, which we'll talk about next. So blogging, I think, is suitable for people who really like to write, and they also like marketing, particularly organic marketing like SEO. Okay, so let's move on to our next candidate. And I'm going to be biased here because we have a YouTube channel, but I'm going to put YouTube in the S tier. And I think it's a very great way to make money. And let me explain why. First, you have a very high earning potential, and you have the potential to make residual income. So whenever you put out a video like this video right now is an asset, and it will stay on the internet and it will generate income for as long as it exists, right? Yes, you can do this with blogging and Instagram as well, but with YouTube videos, they last longer. So YouTube videos have a longer shelf life, let's say, compared to Instagram photos, because they are also depending on what kind of videos you make, but most of the time YouTube videos last longer and they are greater assets on the internet. Another pro of YouTube is that it builds your brand in a way that it is very easy to expand to other businesses. So I'm sure you've seen your favorite YouTubers who start out their channel and then eventually they go into other lines of business. Let's say they sell merch, or let's say they do affiliates, or let's say they do online courses. So YouTube is really this brand builder that you can use to leverage and to create an audience that you can eventually offer other products or services to. And a unique advantage that YouTube has is that it comes with celebrity perks. So if let's say your YouTube channel is based on yourself, your brand, so you show your face, then when your YouTube channel grows, you kind of get celebrity perks in that people invite you to come speak, people give you free stuff like that. So that is a very nice perk that I don't see. It doesn't come with other things like blogging, maybe blogging, but not e-commerce, not day trading, definitely not being a Grab driver unless you document your Grab drivers and put it on YouTube. But being a YouTuber, if you show your face, you have the potential to get celebrity-like status and get these nice perks that you don't get anywhere else. I like to call this influencer access. So you get access to events, speaking engagements, free stuff like that. And the final pro to YouTube is that it's free to start. All you need is a video camera. You may need to spend money down the line to improve the quality of your videos, but most of the time, the important thing is the actual message that you're sending out to your audience and how you interact with them. So the cons of YouTube: with great power comes great responsibility. So it comes with some heavy and unique cons as well. The first one being is you have to be original, entertaining, and sometimes educating at the same time, which can be very difficult. It's very difficult to be original and put out original content that is entertaining and educating at the same time. Another con that comes hand in hand with the celebrity perks or the influencer access that I talked about in the pros is that it comes with some mental health or public image risk. So if you show your face on camera, if you say something that is not socially acceptable, or if you do something wrong, then you might be cancelled. You might have some people that hate you. You might get hate mail. In extreme circumstances, you might get stalkers and people who actually want to physically hurt you or mentally hurt you. So this can come with that risk. So if you're a celebrity, if you're famous, yeah, it comes with nice perks, but it also can come with quite troublesome or worrying circumstances when people don't like you. And the final con to YouTube is that you do need certain skills that are very broad as well. So for example, you need to be able to speak in front of a camera. You need to be able to be entertaining, original. You need to be able to write original content. You need to be able to do video editing if you don't want to hire a video editor. You need to understand the YouTube algorithm and YouTube SEO. So those are also a broad range of skills that you would need to have at least a general understanding of when you start a YouTube channel. So how much can you earn from YouTube? I would say the earnings are quite unlimited. If you look at Graham Stephan, a famous personal finance YouTuber in the US, he earned $1 million just from YouTube ads alone. So that is quite a lot. And on top of that, he is expanding out his merch business, his online course, all those things. Like I said earlier, once you have a brand and once you have a following, then your earning potential can be unlimited and it can follow you for the rest of your life because people know you as a person personally, and you can have this following and you can keep this following for the rest of your life and monetize it. But if you're not Graham Stephan with 1 million subscribers, I would say you could earn anywhere between 10 to 15, 20K a month. We earned about 150 to 200K last year. So you can look at our subscriber count over the years and you can make a judgment for yourself how much you can earn with certain amount of subscribers. So I think YouTube is suitable for people who are not shy, people who have very thick skin and don't mind being in the limelight, in the media attention. That is, of course, if you have a YouTube channel that shows your face. You could easily have a YouTube channel where your face is not there. You can do animations and all that. But at the same time, if you don't show your face, then you have to be very good at animations or video editing, or you can hire someone else. So that is another side of a YouTube channel where you don't show your face. YouTube is also for people who like videos. They like videos and they like to share their ideas through videos. They like to watch the videos. They like to create videos. They like to edit videos. So this is who YouTube is suitable for. Next candidate up, we have Instagram and Instagram business. So this can be quite a surprise, and I did some research into this. At first, I thought Instagram was an A tier, but now I believe Instagram could easily be an S tier way to make money, and this is why. So the pros to Instagram is mostly the same to YouTube. You have higher earning potential, you build a brand, and once you build a brand, you can bring that brand with you wherever you go. You have influencer access when you build this brand, and it's also free to start. So on Instagram as well, you can either choose to have a personal brand, like let's say you show your face, you are the brand, or you could have to have a theme-based business, like let's say there are Places Malaysia or travel pages that advertise the best travels or the best malls to go to. So how much can you earn from Instagram? I would say it's unlimited as well with that brand building power. But for example, those personal influencers you see on Instagram, they make anywhere between 6 to 12K a month. Depending on your following and the niche you are in, you can make a lot more or a lot less. So I think Instagram is suitable for people who really like social. They are very trendy, they are very aesthetic, very artsy, and they also understand the social and the current trends a lot. And our final candidate for today which I think is a very underrated way to make money today, is tutoring. So tutoring can be tutoring anything from maths, science, high school, university admissions, teaching swimming, teaching golf, stuff like that. And I would put tutoring in the A tier. And the reason why is that we're not only considering the earning potential in this tier list, but we're also considering the lifestyle that comes with it. So for tutoring, your lifestyle can be very easygoing. You can be a stay-at-home mom, but you're tutoring and you're earning 6 figures a year. So the pros to tutoring is that there is a very high earning potential, especially if you teach high school subjects or university subjects, or even sometimes primary school subjects. Parents want their kids to do well in exams, and there's a very, very high demand for good tutors. It also has very, very low startup costs. Sometimes the startup cost is 0. If you already have your own house, all you need is just a dining table or a study room, and you can invite people to your house. You also get to do something that you like and teach something that you like, hopefully. Another pro to tutoring is that you're actually developing your teaching skills and you're developing your knowledge on the subject matter that you're teaching, because when you teach it, then you understand it better. Now, the con to tutoring is that you must show that you can provide results. So if you are teaching maths to high school students, you must show their parents that either your students have gotten good results or that you have gotten good results yourself. Another con to tutoring is that sometimes you need to be in a good area where people are willing to pay a lot for tutoring, or you need to be somewhere in the near vicinity where people are willing to pay a lot for tutoring. So it is quite location dependent sometimes. And the final con to tutoring is that it can be hard to scale, but with online tutoring, that problem is basically solved. In terms of earnings for tutoring, you can earn anywhere from 50 to 250 ringgit an hour. And that is quite decent for just sharing your knowledge without any capital. So it's pure gains, pure profit. So I would say tutoring is suitable for people who love to teach. If you don't love to teach, don't be a teacher, because you won't be a good teacher. So this is how I rank all these ways of making money. If you disagree, let me know down in the comments and tell me why. This is not set in stone. This is just my personal opinion. And if you have another opinion, I would love to hear it in the comments. If you like this video and you want more ways, there are many more ways to make money. And if you want me to rank more of these things, then let me know down in the comments as well. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, give this video a like, and while you're at it, subscribe to the channel. The final thing I want to say is that don't be discouraged if I put some things that you do down on the C tier or D tier, and don't be too excited if I put things on the S tier. These come with certain cons as well, or certain things that you need to do, certain sacrifices you need to make in order to establish a successful business in this S tier. So that's it for me today. If you would like more of these videos, let me know down in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.